So, here's a question that's been around for, about 500 years. Can two of the world's biggest Christian traditions, Catholics and Lutherans, actually find their way back to unity? It's a story that's got everything: deep divisions, some really surprising dialogue, and a long, often tough search for some common ground.
And that really is the heart of it, isn't it? After centuries of conflict that literally redrew the map of the world, is it even possible to resolve a 500-year-old argument? Well, let's dive in and find out. Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the modern push for unity. Then, we'll dig into a shared vision of what the church even is. After that, we'll explore the sacrament that's at its very core, uncover the one huge hurdle that's still there, and finally, we'll look at where this whole conversation might be headed. You gotta remember, for most of the last 5 centuries, the relationship was defined by the really deep, bitter splits of the Protestant Reformation. But in the 20th century, something incredible happened. There was a major shift away from just arguing and towards having a real structured conversation. And let's be super clear, this isn't just some informal get-together over coffee. We are talking about a formal, high-level theological dialogue. Both sides have committed some of their top minds to digging back into their shared history and beliefs to see if there's a real path forward. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. You'd think they'd start with all the things they disagree on, right? But they didn't. They started with something much more fundamental, a place where they have a surprising amount of common ground, the idea of what the church itself is supposed to be. Okay, before we go any further, there's a key term we gotta know: ecclesiology. It sounds super academic, I know, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It's just the study of the church. It asks the big questions like, what is the church? Why is it here? How is it supposed to be structured? Getting on the same page here is, well, it's step one for everything else. And boom, here's the breakthrough. Both Catholics and Lutherans are more and more seeing the church not as some rigid top-down organization, but as a communion, a living community of people brought together and kept together by one central sacred act, the Eucharist. The idea is that the church is literally made by the Eucharist. So if the church is this communion, how do you know it when you see it? Well, building on that shared vision, the dialogue came up with these 3 essential visible signs. Both sides agree that for unity to be real, it can't just be some abstract idea. It has to be something you can actually see in these 3 areas: the way the faith is preached, the way the sacraments are celebrated, and the nature of the ministry. All right, let's zoom in on that second pillar, which, by the way, is the very heart of that Eucharistic ecclesiology we just talked about. Let's talk about the Eucharist itself, an area that historically was a source of just massive conflict. This quote just nails it. It perfectly shows how central this sacrament is. For both traditions, the Eucharist isn't just a thing the church does, it's seen as the source and the peak of its entire existence. Everything flows from it, and everything leads right back to it. And honestly, you can't overstate how big a deal this is. This is one of the great success stories of this whole dialogue. After centuries of really bitter, sometimes even violent arguments over what this sacrament means, there's now this incredible growing agreement. On this key point, they are closer than they've been in 500 years. Okay, wait a minute. This brings up a pretty obvious question, right? If they have a shared vision for the church, and they're getting so close on its central sacrament, what's the holdup? Why isn't there full communion, like, right now? And that brings us right to that third visible pillar we mentioned earlier. This, without a doubt, is the big one. It's the single toughest, most persistent roadblock on the path to unity, the question of ministry. Who exactly has the authority to lead worship and to celebrate the Eucharist? To really get this, we have to look at this one specific Latin phrase, defectus ordinis. It comes from a really important Catholic document, and it's the official term used to describe Protestant ministries. It basically means a lack or a defect of what the Catholic Church considers to be valid holy orders. So here's where the rubber meets the road. It all boils down to this fundamental difference. Where does a minister's authority come from? The Catholic position is that for a ministry to be valid, it has to have apostolic succession, an unbroken chain of ordinations that goes all the way back to the original apostles. For them, this is a guarantee of continuity. The Lutheran position, which comes out of the Reformation, puts the emphasis on the priesthood of all believers. They believe the community itself has the right to call and ordain its ministers, and that That is the core of the disagreement. And just when you think it couldn't get more complex, it does. Theologians are still debating what that term defectus actually means. Does it mean Lutheran ordinations are completely invalid, like they don't count at all, or are they just illegitimate, meaning they're real but they happened outside of the proper structure? It's a subtle difference for sure, but it has huge implications.
So after this journey through amazing points of agreement and one profound point of disagreement, where does that leave us? Let's take a look at the future of this 500-year-long conversation. All right, so let's do a quick recap. We've seen this incredible coming together on the idea of the church as a community centered on the Eucharist. But we've also hit this massive wall on the question of ministry, all tied up in that concept of defectus ordinance. And yet, the most important thing to take away here is that the conversation itself provides hope. And this right here really captures the spirit of the whole thing. Full, visible unity, it's not here yet. The challenges are still very, very real. But the commitment to keep talking, to keep trying to understand each other, and to keep walking together, well, that keeps a door open to the future. And it keeps a door open to hope.
And that leaves us with one final, much bigger thought. Maybe the goal isn't just about resolving a 500-year-old argument. Maybe it's about rethinking what unity even means in the first place. Is the end goal to have total agreement on every single little thing, or is it about finding a way to stay on a shared journey together, even with some differences, in a common faith? It's a question that matters far beyond just this one debate for anyone anywhere trying to bridge a deep divide.